On Coronation Street, Todd Grimshaw is set to reach his limit next week as Theo Silverton keeps fanning the flames of conflict. When his birthday celebrations fall apart, Theo retaliates by humiliating his partner in public, sparking yet another explosive clash. As the fractures in their engagement grow more obvious, viewers may start to wonder whether Theo's controlling behavior will finally be exposed. In Monday's installment, Todd and Summer make a big effort to spoil Theo for his birthday. However, the scaffolder barely conceals his dissatisfaction while opening his gifts. Later at the bistro, Theo asks Gary and Maria to join him for a birthday meal while Todd is delayed at work. When Todd eventually shows up, an irritated Theo thrusts the bill towards him, forcing Todd to confess he can't afford to cover it. Back at the flat, the embarrassment escalates as Theo blames Todd for spoiling the occasion and orders him to fetch wine. Todd's attempts to defuse the tension only make matters worse, leading to a fierce row and smashed dishes. The next morning, Gary spots Theo sleeping in his van, where he claims their fight was about financial stress. Gary offers to collect some belongings from the apartment until tempers settle. Upon entering the flat, Gary finds Todd angrily hurling a blender after failing to get it to work. Todd admits he's desperate to repair things with Theo, prompting Gary to arrange a conversation between them. A Corrie insider reveals that Todd finally gets a brief respite from Theo following their violent confrontation. Yet despite the distance, Todd remains emotionally entangled and conflicted about Theo's departure. Theo, meanwhile, may have more calculated moves in mind, but how long will he really stay away? The following day, a nervous Todd keeps glancing at the door, fearful that Theo might suddenly reappear. Seeking distraction, he heads to the Rovers to drink with friends. When Theo turns up at the pub, Todd is overwhelmed and quickly walks out. Theo pursues him moments later, insisting they need to speak. Later that evening, James escorts an intoxicated Todd back home, unaware that Theo is lurking nearby, watching their every move. Could another troubling scheme already be in motion? Coronation Street lines up fresh suspect if Carl Webster is killed. Coronation Street is preparing to launch a major whodunit storyline, and the latest episode has teased another possible culprit if Carl Webster turns out to be the victim next month. Viewers of the ITV drama are aware that plenty of locals have strong motives to see Carl gone. He was recently named as one of 5 characters at risk in the upcoming mystery plot set to unfold in Weatherfield. Following the dramatic Corriedale crash, Carl allowed Debbie to shoulder the blame for the collision and has since been draining her savings while she remains in prison. During tonight's installment, Sally uncovered details of Carl's manipulation while visiting Lou in jail with the children. She attempted to reason with Debbie, who has stayed silent about being Carl's biological mother, but Debbie refused to engage. Back at the Rovers, Sally confided her worries to Ronnie, who wasted no time challenging Carl the moment he stepped inside the pub. It's already been established that Ronnie is determined to get revenge, and Kevin also has every reason to resent Carl after Abby's affair with him last year. However, the latest confrontation hinted at yet another potential suspect if Carl is the one who meets a grim fate on the 23rd of April. As tempers flared in the pub, landlord Ben stepped in and delivered a stern warning before throwing Carl out. He made it clear that Carl was testing his patience and that it wouldn't end well if he continued. Carl, unfazed, left with a smirk, boasting that he was more than happy to go, particularly while spending Debbie's money. Digital Spy has examined the growing clues suggesting Carl could die on the same day as Lisa Swain and Carla Connor's wedding. Although the show is keeping the identity of the eventual victim tightly under wraps, a flash-forward scene confirmed that Carl, Jody Ramsey, Maggie Driscoll, Megan Walsh, and Theo Silverton are all facing serious danger. Devastating Coronation Street twist as traumatized Debbie collapses behind bars. Debbie's dementia continues to worsen while she remains imprisoned for a crime she didn't commit, all in a desperate bid to repair her shattered bond with her son Carl, who is ruthlessly exploiting her lingering guilt over giving him up to her parents at birth in order to drain her finances. Since her doomed wedding to Ronnie spiraled into the horrific, blood-soaked Corriedale crash, Debbie's world has unraveled completely. She initially accepted responsibility for the accident caused by Carl's drink driving, fully aware she was innocent, even as he manipulated her memory issues to convince her otherwise. Branded an outcast on the street, Debbie battled overwhelming fear at the thought of a prison sentence. When Carl briefly tried to confess that he had been behind the wheel, Debbie insisted on taking the blame, publicly revealing in the process that she is his biological mother. Instead of softening him, the revelation only deepened Carl's resentment, especially after he discovered she had placed Ryan in charge of her hotel, jeopardizing his access to siphoning funds from the business. While incarcerated, Debbie found some comfort in a budding friendship with fellow inmate Lou, as well as a visit from Carl, who seized the moment to manipulate her into handing over more money. During another trip to prison, Debbie is horrified to discover Lou severely beaten and immediately calls for assistance. However, at Lou's urging, she withdraws the alarm, angering a prison officer who is clearly unwilling to offer help. At visiting hours, Carl approaches Debbie with his usual icy demeanor. Nearby, Lou is reunited with her children, accompanied by Sally, who uses the opportunity to question Debbie about Lou's injuries. As Sally listens in, she overhears Carl pressuring Debbie for additional cash. Determined to keep him close, Debbie offers to set up a standing order to provide him with regular payments. Carl's triumphant smirk does not go unnoticed by Sally, who watches in disgust. When the visit ends, Carl brushes off Debbie's attempt to embrace him as she begs him to return soon. Seizing the moment, Sally gently tries to reason with her. She suggests Debbie is effectively paying Carl for his attention, leaving Debbie shaken and defensive as she insists Sally stay out of her affairs. In Debbie's mind, she owes her son everything, and wouldn't any mother do the same? Sally counters that her own grown children would never pressure her for money, a remark that wounds Debbie deeply and sends her retreating to her cell. Alone with her racing thoughts and fragmented memories, Debbie is soon approached by Lou. Overwhelmed, she lashes out, screaming for her to leave, her distress amplified by confusion and emotional turmoil. Meanwhile, tensions on the street escalate after Sally informs Ronnie about Carl's latest scheme at the Rovers. When Carl walks in, it takes the combined efforts of Ryan, Ed, and landlord Ben, who ultimately bans Carl from the pub, to restrain Ronnie, as Carl taunts Debbie and boasts about fleecing her. Back in prison, Debbie's condition deteriorates further as flashes of conversation echo in her mind. Dizzy and physically weakened, she calls for assistance, but the same indifferent officer offers little support. Struggling back to her bunk, her strength finally fails her, and she collapses onto the cold floor. Will Carl finally recognize the damage he's inflicting on his own mother, or will his cruelty continue unchecked? Coronation Street airs weeknights at 8:30 p.m. on ITV1 and is available to stream on ITVX.